Hello, Ryan Garland. I am your host of The Paradigm Shift. I cannot wait to expose the true inner depths of institutional wealth building and how to dig deep into real estate investing. Great. Okay, guys, we are live. So everybody, thank you so very much for joining today. This webinar is going to be circled around the Barn Caves project. For all of you that had signed up, I'm sure you went ahead and read everyone's bios on the landing page and got a chance to spend a little bit of time getting to know each and every one of these individuals that are going to be a part of this project. And they are vital to the success of not only Paradyme's overall brand, but the Barn Caves project itself. And I am beyond honored to introduce you to all of these gentlemen, because again, they have been right there next to me, not only from the beginning, but are kind of guiding this all the way through the finish line. And I couldn't be more excited to introduce you guys to these fine gentlemen. So I am going to talk a little bit about me. For those of you that have been following me for some time, you know that I am not a fan of wasting time. So we're going to get right to brass tacks. And what I like to do, to be candid, is get right to just a little bit about me. And what we have here today is a gentleman that's in front of you that has 20 years of experience. I've done $3 billion in transactions, really cut my teeth in the lending space. And believe it or not, I actually started my career in slinging mortgages and call centers, believe it or not. And now everyone asks me, how the hell did you get to where you are today? And I just tell everyone, doors just kept opening. I kept walking through it. So right now we have about 650,000 square feet of boat and RV storage that has morphed into kind of more of a man cave infrastructure. We also have been vital to the success of Europa Village, a $185 million winery in Temecula, which is one of the most recognized wineries now in the United States. I also manage a $100 million debt fund, which is for short-term bridge loans, mortgage-backed security market, and we have a rather large outfit lending money across the country for ground-up construction, hence kind of getting into the space that we are now, owning a construction division and morphing into more of the development space. So really honored to have you guys here, and I'm really excited to get right into the gentleman that has helped us spearhead this, Stephen Beagle, which is he's actually become, I'd say, probably a really close friend at this point. I feel honored to have him here. Not only is he the gentleman that remodeled the Pentagon, but I'm going to let him share a little bit about himself, but he has a unbelievable background and ultimately is the gentleman who has helped us with the design of the and the engineering of this, because ultimately what we want to do is take this project and stamp it across the country, and I'll even open it up to other builders and developers that want to start, cutting costs, but build faster and build something that's a little bit more trendy, but also staying in the front lines of costs and so forth. Because at the end of the day, just to be honest, we didn't know which direction the election was going to go, if inflation was going to stay high. What we wanted to do was stay on the front lines on the affordable side. And so with these gentlemen here, they were looking at it from a value engineering side and trying to figure out a way to cut costs all the way across the board and make sure that we can get people in homes and just fill that gap that the housing crisis is out there. So Stephen, thank you so much for being here, my friend. I would love for you to take the mic for a second and share a little bit about your story and your background.
Thank you, Ryan, and thanks to everybody who's joining. Stephen Beagle, architect, 44 years doing this. It's hard to admit that in this circle. This is a young, dynamic team, and I'm just really thrilled to be part of it. There's some creative people on this call, and we've got some great ideas to share. Again, my background includes the Pentagon, the Pentagon renovation prior to 9/11. Complicated building, 33,000 people there 24/7, and yet we were able to renovate it. Post 9/11, the SEC building in New York City, the old Woodworth Tower, that was a fun project. We had to quickly relocate the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, back when World Trade 7 ultimately collapsed after the attack. Since then, Vice President of the National Institute of Building Sciences, codenamed NIBS in Washington, and up through now, some 2,000 buildings in my portfolio, and most of them are very attractive. So I find that to be a tribute and a credit. I'm pleased and blessed to have that happen. Most recently, the Tierra, you see on the screen here, Tierra on the Beach is the largest and most recent condominium project in Galveston, Texas. And Ryan and the engineers came down for the groundbreaking here 10 days ago. So we're off and running with a $150 million project in Galveston. And, as far as the barn caves are concerned, we are excited, deeply involved in the final construction documents. We were just coordinating. We should be done with our permit set here by the end of January. There's my introduction.
No, thank you, Stephen. And just kind of piggyback off of that, we're actually going to be building our very first unit at our project or a property that I own in Tennessee. And we have gotten so much interest from other builders and developers and so forth across the country. We wanted to protect our brand. And one of the things we wanted to do is make sure that we build this, on a undisclosed site somewhere across the country that nobody else is going to see how we actually design the framing and so forth of this project. So Stephen and I were at the, real quick story, Stephen and I are at the property. We're having a cigar. We're getting to know each other. And guess what comes up? The 9/11 Twin Towers and really how that thing came down. So Stephen is a very, very smart man. He is he has some pretty strong insight on how things work. So it's really impressive on his knowledge, and I really feel honored again that you're here. So Stephen, thank you. And we'll go ahead and move on. So Rob, Mr. Sampson, my other best friend out here, which he loves to come over and race the race simulator, by the way. He's a GT3 guy. He loves Porsches. And if you get to know him, you'll see him driving around the nicest Porsche in town, which I love. But Rob actually is the gentleman who is overseeing all of our boat and RV storage. In essence, what I call our man caves, our Paradyme storage. He was kind of the lead designer on this one. And him and I have obviously built a great relationship over time. And I went to him and said, hey, everyone keeps asking me on my phase one, because the project, even the unit I'm sitting in now with all the infrastructure for the most part at home, people keep asking, man, these things are so nice. Can we live in them? And the reality is you can't, right? With zoning and other rules. And so I did kind of put that whole ear to the ground. What are my buyers? What's the community looking for? And given what the city's looking for as well, the city doesn't want any more storage being built in the city limits. And so when this 18 acres popped up, which by the way, the barn cave site is literally 2 left-handed rock throws away from here. We were thinking, okay, why don't we build maybe a storage unit with like a loft? But then it morphed into, they don't want storage units again. So why don't we look at it from a 3-story product, which we were involved in a 3-story, 45-unit townhome product, tall skinnies in Denver. So I went to Rob and I said, Rob, ever since I even moved to my headquarters to Nashville, the barndominium movement has just exploded. And some of you that know me, I ended up remodeling an old barn that was built in 1892. It was leaning over. It's all old. It's got some great history to it. And I went in there and built a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. And literally, it's a full house. And you would never know. You walk up to this old barn, and as soon as you walk into it, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And so, and it's modern, which looks great. But I went to Rob and I said, it's very trendy. And when you look at the data, I would love for you to kind of spearhead the design of it with me. And so that's when Rob and I got into the trenches. So Rob was really there from the beginning. So Rob, if you don't mind, share a little bit about your backstory, even with me and Paradyme, and kind of your footprint within the city, because that's really important. I want people to know really your pedigree here in the city too.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for putting this together today. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say it's an honor to be on the same call as someone as esteemed as Stephen and all his accolades that he put out there. I feel like I'll be a little disappointing when we go through my list of accomplishments compared to him, but here goes.
Stop being so unhumble. Everybody on this, by the way, is the most humble people in the world. Even before this, I've been trying to coach everybody. Stop being so humble. Just time to brag about yourself, please.
All right. So I've been with Selberg Associates over 25 years. After the untimely passing of Paul Selberg, I ended up taking over partial ownership of the company. I'm now acting as the vice president. Selberg Associates has been around for 40 years, and we're the largest and longest standing architectural firm in Mojave County. We've designed over 4 million square feet of metal buildings and storage facilities in the past 7 years alone, and it is definitely a trend that we see moving forward. And a lot of the stuff that when Ryan came to us, he said, well, here's what we're looking at doing. And he asked me about the barn caves, and he said, well, on these barn caves, do you even think that there's I mean, we see it, we think we see it, is what's happening locally. And at the time we were designing already 2 barn caves that were in different parts of Mojave County. And it was something that certainly there was a trend emerging, and something that, Ryan, if he's anything, he's been on the cutting edge of a lot of things. And I don't mean to pump his tires, but, he really got his teeth into this and said, what are we going to do here? And anyone who's been in Mojave County and Lake Havasu City, especially for any amount of time, knows that the ideal home here, it seems, in Lake Havasu is a 15-car garage and about 100 square feet of living. And we've found people who've put these really tiny residences on these large lots, and it's all garage space. And one thing that was apparent is we have a lot of second, third, fourth homes here that are people that are living here or coming out here just to party. We had one client that we designed a house for that was for 1 weekend a year. It was for our major boat weekend that we had. And the guy was a tech billionaire, and he said, I just need a place. I hate staying in hotels, so I'm going to build a 9,000 square foot house on the island, which I don't know if it ever really got built. I don't think it did at the end of the day, but that was his logic. So there's definitely was a precedence for this end of it. And, one thing that we've been doing is kind of meeting with the cities and with the different utility companies, because with every project that's got some uniqueness to it, there's always a function where the city has to be involved, and obviously has something to say. And sometimes we feel like they have too much to say. You never know. But we're working through a lot of that right now, and certainly have the right team to put this together. So.
Yeah, Rob, thank you very much, my friend. Well, after we kind of do the introductions, we're going to drill down into kind of the setbacks, go into 5-foot setbacks, and just kind of the overall structure of the community, which I think a lot of people are going to love. So thank you, Rob. Okay, Ryan, the man, the myth, the legend, the one who's actually going to put all the steel together, Ryan Bersnato, my friend. So please, if you don't mind, introduce yourself. And just like Rob keeps trying to tell you, stop being humble. You got to brag about yourself this time.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Well, first of all, guys, I got to tell you that I'm so excited to be part of this team with Ryan's marketing ability and everything that he does and his high energy, and then Stephen and Rob's architectural design experience, Dennis's experience in real estate and building, and then of course the best real estate salesperson I've ever seen, Eric. What a team this is, and I'm so excited to be part of it. My end of it is really the manufacturing part. I own a 122,000 square foot manufacturing facility here in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. I specialize in steel. I have over 30 years experience in manufacturing, but we do types of manufacturing products all the way through electronic circuitry. We're a structural steel contractor. We really feature a lot of robotic and advanced manufacturing machinery. I have over $30 million of machinery in my facility. I use robotic fiber lasers, which is the most accurate way to cut steel. I have 8-axis forming brake, robotic brakes that form steel. And then I have a full 9001 ISO machine shop here that we're a government contractor. We can do aerospace parts or any parts that are real fine. So I specialize in taking these guys' design and making it come to fruition in terms of the parts, so Dennis can put all this stuff together and whatnot. So I'm really excited to be part of this team. I'm really excited to provide all of the steel for this team and these new barn caves and this project, because I have to tell you that what I've seen of the design, it's I can't wait to get one myself. It's the most exciting thing that I've been involved with in quite some time. So I'm really elated to be part of the team. And if it can be made, I can build it. So that's really my claim to fame. And I run Premier Manufacturing and 10-day doors, PMG Co's, and a bunch of other brands that we build out of our facility there. So I'm looking forward to making this deal and doing it right and doing it in a timely fashion. And dealing with Ryan, it's real exciting because, everything he wants done right, and he wants done now. So, which I like to. So it's going to be exciting to be able to grow our facility into the capability that it has. we're about 30% capability right now, and we have room. We have about 60 employees, and we have room to grow to 330 employees. And we look forward to this project and many of Ryan's other projects getting us there and joining forces with him and Paradyme Manufacturing. So, that's really what I got. Did I miss anything, Ryan?
No, you're good. No, that's perfect. Yeah, I'll just kind of give a little. I'll just tee off of that. But the reason why too, for all you guys are watching, this team was assembled over time. After Rob and I really started getting into this, and as most of you guys know, my network spans across the country, kind of, going into, how my business has been ran across the country and lending and developers and lending money to developers. And a lot of relationships have been built in primary markets, like, for example, Denver, Austin, Dallas, those type of areas. And what happened was I got a phone call from a former friend of mine. He's got a 200-acre master plan community that's anchored by Kroger. He calls me and goes, Ryan, I am absolutely in love with your units. Can I, in essence, buy your floor plans, and can I maybe work with you on the manufacturing side? I want to buy 700 of your units. And I was kind of floored. I'm like, do you guys think they're this desirable? And you're going to talk to Eric here shortly, the guy who does all of our sales and our exits. But, he's going to tell you the demand for this is incredible. I think our list alone, we have over 400 buyers that want these units, including investors that are investing money just to be able to lock up a property kind of thing. So, the desirability for these units have gone through the roof. And so over time, we have just, in essence, brought this entire team together to try to do mass production. So what you heard in Ryan was the ability to grow. And he's only at 30% capacity, which means we have a lot of room to grow all the way down to logistics, transportation. I mean, we have narrowed down this to take it to, I'm always reaching for the stars, but really $1 billion play. We can get a lot of receivables. A lot of developers want this, being able to put these things together quicker, less trades, the list kind of goes on. So bringing everybody, on the forefront and designing this properly where people can just erect these things anywhere. For example, downtown Nashville, you can get 3 acres and pop up 10 of these and you can do it quick. But it's all built to, residential single family specs. So you can get insurance, get conventional mortgage and finance. So there's a lot of energy being put into the design of this. And so Ryan, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and we'll get more collaborative here after this. So, all right, guys.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. So for those of you guys that know my friend Dennis Roberts, our contractor, the guy who is literally taking bullets every day for Paradyme, just making sure things are getting done and counting bodies. And, the reason why he has glasses on is because he's got a black eye really behind that thing. I have to hit him every once in a while and say, hurry up, dude, I need this thing to be built. I got investors that want to be happy. So, but Dennis, as you guys know, we have kind of a cool thing going. I post on social media. I'm always giving him a hard time, and it's just kind of the nature of our relationship. But I would say we sat down and had breakfast the other day, and I looked at him and I told him, hey, I said, this is a friendship and a relationship that'll be for the rest of our lives.
Absolutely.
And so, Dennis, I really appreciate everything you do, buddy. I think you are kind of the storm behind the scenes people don't know. And I think it's very important you get to be a little bit more on the face side. Please share your story, and we'll talk about something else down the road. I'm going to bring something up. You're probably going to really love it. So, but by the way, your beard looks great today.
Oh, great. I'm glad to hear it. I put a lot of time into it just for this. Dennis Roberts, I've been in this market for about 30 years, 25 of it in the construction industry. About every major building in Mojave County of any size, my fingerprints are on it at some point. Really, my background, structural concrete and concrete, that's where I cut my teeth as a child in a family of concrete people, and then moved into engineering and worked in that for many, many years in materials testing, inspections, specialized in many elements of concrete, soils, masonry, and then kind of moved into defect work for a while, and then just became a consultant. And Ryan and I met on the golf course one day, and he said, look, we got a lot of things going. And we just had a quick conversation about it. And next thing you know, 7 months later, we decided to kind of join forces and take on this project. And it's been a whirlwind. It's been fantastic, though. I love the energy this group brings. In the engineering world, one of the things I missed out of that world was the professionalism and the energy that comes with teams that really know what they're doing. So often in the construction world, you end up with one person who seems to know what they're doing and the rest are just following as fast as they can. This assemblage, this team that we've been able to come up with is by far one of the best group that I've ever encountered, and privileged to be part of it.
Yeah, Dennis, thank you. You know, this was the story I was going to share, but when we golfed together, Dennis, or I think Eric, put you and I in a cart.
Yeah.
And we never even talked about business. I think we just kind of shared what we do, but we talked about family and brotherhood and loyalty, and for 4 hours. Yeah. And then next thing I know, me and Eric are talking. I'm like, you know what? I kind of like that guy, Dennis. He'll look good on, showing up to job sites, telling people what to do.
Yeah.
So, but I love, thank you very much for sharing, and we'll slide over to the next, the man, the myth, the other myth. And for those of you guys that follow me on social media, you guys probably see him quite a bit. But this is the guy who is selling all of our assets. And this is where the money is being made, right, guys? I would say this is probably one of the most important things. Not only do we have to build them, and that's where you see the majority of our team, where it all lands is how to sell them. And we don't make money until we sell our property, right? So bringing Eric on very early, where I think a lot of developers are missing that component on bringing in their sales team early. And you guys are going to hear from Eric here shortly, but his background is unbelievable. He's one of the top in the nation. He's number one, I believe, in the state. But he is by far, and he's a builder, and he's a developer, and he, has some money invested with us. And so, having somebody that is that diverse and has kind of a vantage point at a 360 degrees is very important for a group and an outfit like us, and really important for other investors to see, because if you plan in the beginning properly, that's where the money's made. And I think for those of you guys that know my uncle, he was one of the owners of Standard Pacific Homes. They sold to Lennar, and he morphed into Irvine Company and so forth. And he had always told me, I always looked up to him, and he said, money is always made in the acquisition and what your exit strategy is. So Eric is vital to that. Eric, thank you, buddy, for being here. Please share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be a part of this webinar. And as Ryan B said, just to be in this company, I think is just fantastic. So I do think we need to add one more line to my bio, maybe matchmaker of professions.
Or BFF. I know you want to be a BFF.
Oh, no.
Let's be honest.
I think hooking Dennis Roberts up with the Paradyme Group and Ryan B with Ryan.
That's true.
That's true.
And Rob.
Is bringing, connections together, whether it's on the business side or matchmaking a buyer and a seller. So I'm grateful to see the team together just by making a few connections. But yeah, for everyone that's on the call, my name is Eric. As Ryan said, I'm the team lead of the #1 real estate group in Lake Havasu City, Mojave County, and we are neck and neck for the #1 position right now in Arizona. It's going to come all the way down to the wire. I think that's incredibly special given the population count of Lake Havasu City. When you stack that up against cities such as Scottsdale and the greater Phoenix area, it's something that I look to my team members at. I mean, we wouldn't be where we are without every single member of our sales team. And some of them are tuning into this webinar. We have the best salespeople in the industry at the Gedalia Group. And again, these numbers that you're seeing on these boards would not be possible without each and every one of them. We're going to close our highest rate of market share in the history of our group's inception. We're going to close at probably just over 10% of market share in the Lake Havasu market. What that means, guys, is we're essentially selling 1 in every 10 homes that trade in the Lake Havasu market. Incredibly special. Some big numbers down there that, kind of explain themselves. I think the biggest thing is, I was I'm a part of this project because of Ryan. Ryan originally was going to be the capital behind the previous developer. And Ryan told that developer, in no way, shape, or form is my company going to vouch or lend on this project unless Eric Adalia and his team, handle all of the sales. So I would not be here without Ryan. And again, very, very grateful for the opportunity. But that relationship grew into, many, many additional projects, including the project next door, which is the subject of today's discussion, the Barn Caves. I pleaded with Ryan for about 6 months to take this parcel down because really the fact of the matter is we're really down to the fourth quarter when it comes to land availability in Lake Havasu, which is why this makes this project so special. In fact, we've just sold our 94th unit at Paradyme Storage. We're on the brink of officially crossing the halfway mark in sales, which I think is a tremendous accomplishment given the adjustment in the real estate market over the last couple of years. And I think it's a testament to what Ryan always says, storage being one of the most recession-resistant asset classes, that are out there. We've continued to sell these storage units at a great pace through the market adjustment. And through Ryan's vision, taking storage to the next level, within the Barn Caves, I think is truly what the market needs, because as Ryan said in the beginning of the call, something that people want even more than storage is a living component attached to it. So that's exactly what the Barn Caves is going to be. And I think for everyone that's on the call that's either considering investing or purchasing, the number one question I would ask when deciding to make this investment or purchase is, is obviously number one, is this going to be a good investment? And the fact that we're really down to no more land opportunities in Havasu to develop out these projects, that's the number one marker right now. It's just the lack of land availability. So I would definitely look to the Barn Caves to invest or purchase, specifically because just the lack of availability in Lake Havasu and the fact that we probably won't see any more, in our lifetime. So that's it.
Eric, since I have you here at the end, why don't you share a little bit about the feedback you and your team are getting about the Barn Caves from the community and other buyers and, people that you're engaged with on a daily?
Yeah, I'll be honest, probably too much. As Ryan said, we're handling the sales right now for Paradyme. So, we take every project extremely seriously, and Paradyme is our focus. Our job is to execute and perform for Ryan and company at the highest level. And our focus is Paradyme right now. And the fact that we're getting close to our 50% sell-off, we're going to be able to slowly transition our focus into the Barn Caves. But between Ryan's powerhouse of marketing, his entire team pushing this project, the awareness, I think, is by far a 10 out of 10. I don't think I've ever seen a project with more awareness besides, maybe Havasu Riviera. So, our entire team and their specific networks have almost become overwhelmed with interest because the project is still some time out. But I think, it's really cool to get the feedback personally, like where did you guys come up with this concept? And I think the surprise, the aura is there because really it's the oversized storage, coupled with a New York penthouse of a stacker on top. I don't know if some of you have seen the interior renderings of this project, but they're absolutely stunning. I've never seen anything like this, let alone, in Lake Havasu, let alone the county. So overwhelmed with interest. The only thing I think we would like is to see Barn Caves come to market sooner.
Yeah, that's true, right? Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. So, guys, we'll get right into the bullet points, too, of the transaction. So what we've narrowed down, and this has been a lot of back and forth, to be candid, on just design and structure. And for those of you that know, we're actually bolting on, or don't know, for those of you that don't know, we're actually going to be bolting on solar components to this. And so as we got into the weeds with Unisource, the power company, we realized that we need to do 5-foot setbacks for compliance, and so from other building techniques as well. So we decided to go to a 5-foot setback. The units itself continue to grow in popularity. Our finish work, we're able to start trimming down as far as certain finishes. So we brought down our unit count, but created a little bit more land space for the unit, which ultimately made more sense, believe it or not. So we're at 97 units here. And then what we've decided to do is to build a community center that was just kind of the focal point of the community. And just kind of given the nature of I would say the atmosphere of Lake Havasu and what it's missing, one is a truly top of the line, more sophisticated, tech-driven gym. And what happened was initially, and when we were going through the project, what we wanted to do was kind of look at it from a standpoint of trying to lower your HOA costs. Eric will laugh at this, but one of the probably biggest selling features of Paradyme Storage is just simply how low our HOA are. And I don't care if you're a multimillionaire or a billionaire, nobody likes HOAs, right? And so we were like, okay, how do we compress these costs, especially with the community center? And Lake Havasu is going to require a pool and some sort of community center. So as I was going through the budget initially, I quickly realized from an insurance cost alone, for those of you that are watching your insurance go through the roof, it goes across the board and everything. And, you have people, maybe out there drinking and partying. And so these insurance companies are smart. They know they're going to need to get some coverage. So the insurance policy was so high, that was a hard stop for me. And it narrowed down where we were going to end up pushing into about $350 to $400 a unit for HOAs. And that's just way too high. It's not realistic. And we'd have to tremendously discount the property just to get people to want to buy in there. So how do we separate that? So what we decided to do is do a lot split and then look at this gym or community center and mimic the Lifetime Fitness model, which Lifetime Fitness, for those of you that don't know, is actually a multifamily developer. They did not build gyms originally. And they got smart and they said, okay, well, if you're in a primary market, as an example, and you have a big public gym, if you look at just kind of the trends, people want to go to a bigger public gym that has nicer equipment and more amenities rather than the little apartment gym that, your resident has, right? So when we were looking at that, I said, well, it'd be smarter for me to take that building, separate it, open it up to the public, make it bigger, kind of cater to another revenue source. And as you generate cash flow to that building, it now has value, because as you guys know, commercial real estate is all based on income approach, what it can produce in income. So if we have a building that's really tied only to the community center and only being used from the residential, that building has no value. It is only an amenity for the residential. And again, that cost for HOAs is high to manage it. So as I started looking at certain, kind of PE models, I said, well, why don't we just do a Lifetime Fitness model? And as I started going through it and kind of doing my own data, and I've been coming out here for 25 years, I've gone to every gym in the city, and I'm like, okay, this should probably fit real well. And if you look at some additional data points, it made complete sense. So what we've done now is we've separated the gym from the residential component. We're going to generate revenue just from the income alone from that gym, just from being open to the public. Now that building has value, and then the income that building produces will maintain that amenity in essence for the residential. So now all of the people that own, these units can now go straight into the gym, and now it's free for them, right? Their HOAs come down significantly, and they have access to the gym. They have a pool. The pool is actually designed like Club Drift. It's a mimicked design pool from Dubai. So we're going to bring in some pretty cool and sophisticated pool designs, as you can imagine. We're going to be roughly in just a little north of 32,000 square feet. This will be an all metal building, and we're going to bring in all of the best equipment. We're talking, Arsenal equipment and some other really high end stuff that people are really looking for nowadays. For those of you that we'll talk into this on maybe a later webinar, but the data supporting health and wellness is big. Healthcare industry is the fastest growing industry. Baby boomers as they get older, and so on and so forth. Since this is so big in a retirement community, the reality is we need to cater to that, right? Looking at more from a healthcare model. So that's really kind of the nature of the product. So not only 97 units of barn caves, which are going to range from 4 different floor plans, 2,200 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, to 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and 2,200 to 3,300 square feet. So we're really excited. So with that said, all right, so let's go to more of a collaborative kind of component. So Eric, I know I'm going to kind of piggyback on you because we don't make money until we sell the property, right? So let's talk a little bit about from an investment side. What do you believe? You have some money invested in Paradyme now, right? And that's always nice because what I like to say, and it's a common word, is you're pregnant with me, right? So if you're putting some skin in the game, obviously,
I'm really pregnant, right?
I know you're real pregnant with me. I think you have what, $4 million with me at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot of dough.
Yeah, a lot of dough. So what's nice, guys, is that these are all people that are invested. Even our superintendent invested a couple $100,000. I think he's actually on the webinar as well. And that's really important for you to know because it tells you that the people that are involved are invested into the project. And that's the most important thing, to see that there's a community of sophisticated people that are coming together to try to build something. And it makes sense from a data point and for what the community needs and so forth. So Eric, overall, this product, from what it makes sense in the community, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes, big RV garages, double wide garages. Just talk a little bit about the amenities this have compared to, projects in the foothills, even though it's completely different, but just kind of what the nature of the homes are like here in Havasu.
You're gonna have to stop me if I start rambling because
I'll stop you.
I have so much just respect and admiration for you, Ryan, as a developer. A lot of developers figure out, how do I do the least amount to maximize and maximize profit? I want everyone to look at the Paradyme storage development. You guys have to realize what Ryan developed at Paradyme Storage is not your typical storage development by no shape or form. The aesthetics, meaning how the project, the elevations, the 3D pop-outs that he created on the double wides, to the guts of each unit, every unit having full insulation, climate control. This is not the norm for storage development, guys. Your typical storage unit in Lake Havasu is a 4-wall steel box that looked like it just came out of a refugee camp. I mean, the aesthetics were unbelievable, but he didn't stop on the inside. We got to building C, and I'm walking the project one day, and all of a sudden I see RV hookups in the unit. I'm like, Ryan, you're now adding RV hookups? He's like, oh yeah, we decided to make that decision in the field. So not every storage unit is going to be insulated, climate controlled, and have RV hookups and look like a futuristic build from the year 2050. I mean, these units essentially almost sell themselves because they are so upgraded in relation to the competition that it makes the exit so much easier for my sales team and I, because Ryan profit is important, don't get me wrong. But by adding a little bit more and making the project a little different, it helped us sell units tremendously quicker than we anticipated. And then we moved to the barn caves and to the gym. Obviously, this gym looks like it's in some fancy Nashville, Equinox, Los Angeles, deal. And people are like, are you overbuilding the storage units, or is this gym too fancy? No, Havasu is trending that direction. Lake Havasu has become probably the most sought after destination for high-end water recreation in the entire country. It's one of the last lakes left with no speed limit, and that's attracted a clientele that is attracted to this. So, when you look at the masses, what does the typical Havasu buyer need? And it's an abundant amount of garage space. So we've checked that box. And now the fact that there's a living component, the biggest kicker is that these units can actually be financed as opposed to Paradyme Storage, where the typical way you would purchase those is by paying all cash. So now you get the storage, you get the living, you have the opportunity to actually finance. You've hit the main markers of what the buyers are looking for in this market. In my opinion, those things make for a pretty successful project.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Yeah, and so let's move over to Rob. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the collaboration of it. If you don't mind, share a little bit about kind of how we started and how much we went back and forth on this, and elevators, and the decks, and how big I want the deck compared to the garage, and how we wanted to see the lake in certain sites and so forth. So, but yeah, just if you don't mind, share a little bit about the beginning stages.
Yeah, sure thing. So when we put together this plan, there was a lot of obviously the focal point was the garage, and how do you maximize the garage and keep your circulation space? So although it's necessary, it doesn't impede upon really the garage space itself. So we came up with a couple of different options. We've worked with the civil engineer closely, and I think we've expanded this lot maybe 3 or 4 times at this point, just trying to maximize and keep every element. We started with more units, but we've found it better to have less units, but offer more to each of the properties. And coming up with the design, Ryan had tasked us with, hey, I want this to be a very masculine design. We want to celebrate the true beauty of raw materials. We want to see, raw steel. We want to use steel beams as a focal point as opposed to covering them up with drywall. Right now, we're in the process of working with Stephen and his expert team to put together, what are the finishes actually going to be in these units, as far as how do we make them so we can mass produce this and put them in any place that you want in the country. When we started this, it was like Havasu City only, and it's morphed, as you've heard on this webinar, to be, a national, potentially international type of development, something that obviously has a lot of legs and a lot of excitement for everybody involved. But yeah, starting this thing, I think Ryan, knowing who Ryan is, had started with a concept. We gave him a floor plan, and 2 days later he said, here's my rendering that I came up with. This I think will be amazing. This is this group worked on it. They put it together. I'm like, buddy, you are going so fast. Let us think through the process before we start spending all your money. 2 days later, we came up with another floor plan. We moved a few things around. We kind of incorporated some of the trendy elements of residential design. And 2 days later, again, without missing a beat, Ryan's right there again with another rendering. And I kept telling him, you're going to, this cart's way before. There's not even a horse at this point. It's just a cart. And this is the way he kept kind of going. And Stephen has, kind of learned that as we gone along. I think he's got to see it firsthand on a number of occasions now. But the development was, look, keep it simple. We want something contemporary looking. We want something that's low maintenance. We want something that when people show up, there's a pride of ownership. There's, great views. I mean, we are 3 stories up in the air. You have views of the majestic Lake Havasu, and you've got also a few views. I think you're going to see the river as it comes in. So there's a lot of excitement here. A lot of the things that we were looking at was how do you get as much light in these things, make them as desirable a place to live as you can, because a lot of times, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, you get a 5-car garage. Where do you put the residents? What kind of view are you getting when you only have 1,500 square feet? And this really, to Eric's point, this is a Manhattan penthouse. This is you're not sacrificing anything by getting this. In fact, you are augmenting a lifestyle.
Yeah, Rob, thank you. And one of the big focal points too was an elevator. Having 3 stories. A lot of people out here are going. Even on our Facebook, our social media posts, people are going, hey, what about an elevator? I don't want to walk stairs, right? And I'll be honest, I don't either. So at the end of the day, we wanted to make that a big focal point. So the way we've kind of set it up is, and I'll kind of give you the backstory. I actually had an apartment in downtown Nashville. When we moved our headquarters to Nashville in 21, I wanted to kind of get a lay of the land, right? The idea is to kind of go get a lay of land. If we decide to move the family out there, then we'll know kind of more about it about a year later. So I wanted to get something downtown, have a little bit of an office. And so got an apartment downtown. It was in a 26-story high rise. It was on 1200 Broadway, right where Whole Foods was. That was the retail component. And you go up to you go up and you park up on thinking like the 3rd floor of the parking structure. And you park right next to a double, basically the elevator. And what I loved is that I was able to get and rent a parking space right in front of the elevator. So I would get out with trees or whatever I have, just literally take 3-4 steps. It felt like I would get into an elevator, go up the elevator, another 20 steps or so, and I'm in my apartment and I'm dumping my stuff right onto, the kitchen countertop. And I loved it. Did not feel in any way, shape, or form that I'm having to go upstairs. I have a 2-story, 3-story building. I'm living in a high rise. It was just so well put together. Well designed. That's what we try to do here. We actually moved the elevator more centralized, and what a lot of people will appreciate is not only do we have a 14-foot high RV door on one side, but on the opposite side we have a standard 2-car garage on the other side, so a little bit more economical for everyday use. But you can back your car in, pull your car in, and wherever your nose goes, your back end goes. You can grab all your stuff out of your car. You literally go into the elevator. and it's a nice big elevator. You go up the elevator and you go right onto the second floor, and it also goes to the third floor, which is a master suite. And the other thing that I wanted to really touch on was because Havasu, in my opinion, is so big on entertainment. We always have people out here. I always host, whether it's business or I have friends and family out here. It's just kind of the nature of the area. And the one thing I think we all do is we usually like to, if we have people come over and you're scrambling, last thing you want to do is have to make your bed in your master bedroom, right? You're like, oh man, I don't want to clean the master bedroom up. So by separating the master on the third story, we pretty much have a 360-degree view. It's very private, but it's also it just feels rich. So the idea was also separate it from any of your guests. And in fact, the first floor, as far as the garage, there's a concept where you can actually build a mezzanine and another bedroom in there. So you can create more living space if needed. But if you go up to the elevator, you go up to the third floor, not only do you have your own private balcony going out the back, which, by the way, guys, just think about it. This right here is 16 feet tall. This is a big RV. It's not standard in a normal garage. So when you're on that second and third floor, you kind of feel like you're in a mini high rise. It is the coolest feeling in the world. So if you're up on the third floor, that view is just going to be stunning. So that's really the idea, was to make it feel rich, build it where it's not rich, try to bring down our costs, but build something that's desirable, that people are really going to want, but is also going to be trendy and needed for the future. So again, one of the big things was solar. For those of you that are in Havasu, the power bill went up almost double, I think, or even more in August. And that was a big deal. And in fact, Dennis, you remember that we had a meeting with the city at 10, and I think they had a power meeting with the city at I think it was 8 o'clock, and it was real toxic, I heard. So, the whole city was at an uproar. So being able to bring in the solar and be able to pass that savings from a utility to the end buyer is a big deal, right? Where again, this is within the purchase price. So the solar comes with the home. You don't have to lease it. You don't have to do that stuff. So we're trying to look at it from a forward facing, how can someone afford it? And I'll give you a quick story, and then I'm going to go over to Stephen here. But when I originally went on this, and I'm gonna say this because the young lady that's watching this is going to smile, but I actually originally created this for a really close friend of mine. She's a single mother, and I was trying to build these in a way where it was more affordable for the area. And it was just really, really, really difficult to try to get that. For one reason is the city and the requirements and the infrastructure that's needed. We're dumping a lot more money in infrastructure than you typically would think. So the cost of the development had to go up. But the idea was to try to bring down our costs in a way that makes it more affordable. And in fact, this product, when it comes to sheer square footage and uses of the garage, is going to be cheaper than any other product. So therefore, there's going to be more demand from an affordability side. So Jamie, if you're watching, I'm sorry, it's not affordable anymore. I think it went up a little higher than we expected. But at the end of the day, what the idea is to try to continue to press costs, make it desirable, make it look it like it. Because I think a lot of people are getting smarter about looking at real estate purchases as an investment, not something that they just want to get in and live in and raise a family anymore. Yes, that is a component, but they want to look at appreciation. They want to look at, being able to have access in and out, low cost of maintenance and so forth. So again, all of those components were kind of married up to the overall conversations that we've had with everybody here on the call. So Stephen, do you, with your background and all the things that you've seen, just throughout the country and in the industry, just kind of tell us a little bit about, your thoughts on the structure of the barn caves, how unique it is, but it's also kind of in line with things that you've done in the past. So it's also not, new to you, which is great because you're not inventing the wheel. But yeah, if you don't mind, share a little bit.
Well, this is great. And you've teed me up on so many things to talk about. I'll try to prioritize. The thing that attracted me most to the team and to the concept was knowing that in the building industry, we are highly restricted. And we have building codes and standards all over the place, and it's difficult to be aware of what they are, and then it's really difficult to comply with all of those. So to be expert and to actually cut new territory, to push the balloon, you have to know where the edge of the balloon is. And what has happened here that is really to the credit of this team, and one of the reasons I was happy to join, is that heretofore we've had technical restrictions like you can't have sleeping quarters in your garage. You can't live above a place where there might be vehicles or fuel. Building technology has come so far in 40 years. We have new materials and combinations of materials, and material science has evolved to the point where we have technology transfer. For example, the elevators. No longer do we have elevator pits. No longer do we need pulleys and traction elevators. We have pneumatics. So the elevator concept that's been explored here is to put pneumatic elevators in that raise up and down in a piston, much like you would at a bank if you put a check in a little tube and send it through. You have pneumatic elevators as a possibility. The floor separation between the garage level and the living quarters is now such that a 1 hour separation is even achievable with glass if it's a certain dimension and a certain compound, acrylic. So we can get there now with these new materials that have evolved from other sciences. It used to be that plastic pipe wasn't even in construction. That was 50 years ago. And that came about, and now you've got PEX, and it's a different form of plastic pipe where it's flexible. It can move. There are architects in my history who have been innovative and have done things like put your drywall walls on casters and move them around, rotate them. The changeability of the environment in this particular case with the barn caves was a real attraction. We are trying to build a contemporary box and systematize that box and have enough flexibility above the garage level that you can actually design your own palette of rooms. You have a choice. You have the ability to change things around within the bearing points, outside wall to outside wall. So there's flexibility here. And to me, this is pushing the envelope, knowing where the restrictions are, and then how do we overcome them. And this team has done that in the design. Credit to Rob, credit to Ryan. This is a real step forward. In my history, we got where we are knowing the difference between an epiphany and a gestalt moment. And to go there, the epiphany is when you realize that something you just did is correct, that you've seen it before, you've learned it, and aha, it makes sense. The gestalt moment is where you do something that's totally different. And maybe it's a combination of learned experience and experimentation and being told something, but it's different. And that's what we have here. It's a different design, and it's exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then it comes down to the man who actually has to build it. So I'm just going to call him every day when I'm sitting Mai Tais and making sure that things are going well. Mr. Dennis, what's your, let's talk a little bit about the innovative side of this, kind of your ability to read the pulse of the city too. And I know that, and Rob, feel free to piggyback off this because you're so tied in. But Dennis, as far as the construction methods, just kind of talk a little bit about your, objective from the beginning all the way through this thing. And then, just to kind of share one more thing, and I'll give you the mic. One of the things, because we've looked at mass production, a lot of developers are coming to us going, hey, look, the GCs that I work with now are not familiar with steel buildings. We're getting to a point where we're bringing on other specialists and third parties that can help us, in essence, create a Lego set. And then there's actually a certificate program where other GCs would actually come out and meet with Dennis. Dennis would then educate and help these other GCs throughout the country understand how to put this building together. So as I was saying earlier, this is a much larger vision, but obviously these conversations are happening during early breakfasts with Dennis. But Dennis, if you don't mind, kind of your plan of attack and kind of just your involvement overall, and because I know you pretty much are you're retiring with me, buddy. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very interested in the prefabricated building process for years. They do this in Europe. They do it in other parts of the world. We don't do it a lot in the United States, or when we do it more on a manufactured housing level. And when we first started talking about kitting this, which, creating kits that you could literally put on a truck, there's 1,000 different things that start happening in your head about, okay, how does this all work? When Stephen met us out at the ranch, we kind of went over this. Steve and I just meshed immediately. I mean, our backgrounds in specialty projects and just kind of this vision of understanding how to create something that doesn't actually exist right now, hinged components, pinned components that literally would lay in a truck, get to the job site, expand, and create a structural member. It's fascinating. Can't be more pleased to be part of it. But there's an awful lot of attention to detail, more so than in a normal construction project where you're basically using standards and standards that are locally practiced, even not even code standards, but just standards that are locally practiced and accepted by the building department to put something together in a way that's very rudimentary. This is a much more technical process, but very learnable, something that an unskilled or somebody with minimal skills can take a manual or with some extra training can literally put this together. I think it's fascinating. It's got a lot of work to put into it to get it to the point where we can kit it and people can understand how to do this. But I'm fascinated with the process. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Anything, just piggyback off that?
Well, I think Steven said it best earlier, and that's that when you kit something like this, you really have a whole bunch of unique jurisdictions that have unique geological and like different weather conditions, different geological concerns that have to be addressed. So in kitting this, bringing in experts from larger structural firms across the nation to help come up with components that will be acceptable in Arizona, but also in Tornado Alley and also along the coast. There's so many moving parts that go into this, but I think you had referenced in your first question to Dennis, Ryan, about the trend in Lake Havasu. And, do we think this is something that'll be able to be built? And that you already assembled the best team to put this thing together, buddy. So I think
I already know we can do it. We wouldn't be this far along if we didn't think so at that point, right? No, but as far as the innovation side for the city, I think from the buzz that I'm getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like even, people that are inside the building department are curious and excited and seeing it. It just seems that there's a lot of good, positive energy and feedback just kind of throughout the whole community.
Yeah, they are. And bringing in the expertise that we're bringing into this project is one of the components to that. Again, the city doesn't have that happen often. So I think this is a special project for the city. It probably will move the needle for the quality and standard for quality that will be expected.
And just as an aside to that, the current zoning of the property is manufactured residential housing. And when the city has heard that this is coming, we've been met with open arms, and not only open arms, but they've asked us to move at an accelerated pace just to make sure that we get that manufactured housing zoning out of there. So they've been very forthcoming and very helpful in making sure that we get what we need.
Yeah, no, it's been great all the way down to even, our own private, meetings with Unisource and being so hands-on on, whether it's easements and how that's going to maneuver around the units down to, even the solar component. They were really excited about that, and from kind of some of the research we've done, and don't hold me to this is probably one of the largest residential solar fields that are going to be in the state of Arizona. So you get a lot of positive feedback from that. But as you can imagine, if we're not pulling against the grid and we're not pulling on Unisource, maybe even possibly providing them some power, we're going to get a lot of support from them too. So a lot of really good stuff. So other than that, guys, you know what? I really appreciate it. I'd like to try to stay right at an hour. We're 58 minutes. So if anybody has any last words, please do. Ryan, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you the redheaded stepchild. We just got to start giving you some plans, buddy. And you can start building some stuff for me. So, but yeah, okay. Anything else anybody wants to say? We good?
Well, I got to tell you guys, I just can't wait to build some of these things that Steven has in mind and Rob has in mind. And I look forward to the technical, the better. And I look forward to making this easy and simple for Dennis and quick and kitting this deal together the best that we can. And really look forward to this project. So it's going to be a fun project. And I feel that it's going to get my factory to capacity. So I'm real excited about that. And real excited to be partners with all these guys. So great investment, great project. I can't wait to have one myself. Thank you, Ryan, for having me part of it.
You know what, Ryan, just to kind of last words here, I love some of our conversations, even the one we had, I think, Friday night. But, obviously you're one of the larger employers here in the city. This would definitely make you one of the largest employers in the city if we're able to grow your side that quickly, or grow it at all at that point, as far as what you're going to need for labor, which is great, because ultimately you're helping the community even further, right? It's just what I like to think is this is an impact play. It's a positive impact for so many good reasons, and I think it's great. But lastly, I think you and I were and I'm not going to hold you to it, right? But I think we were talking about even possibly being able to cut about 3 units a day, with the current machinery that you have. I mean, if we're pumping out 3 units a day, we could do quite a bit of units. So, I'll give you guys an idea.
Very attainable. Yeah, very. Everything from the garage doors, through steel and the soft steel, through stairwells and everything else. I think it's very attainable as we gear up for sure in our
and that's what I think that's the coolest part, and basically you can look around this entire facility and say, we literally designed and built, for the most part, all of it. How cool is that? So it's really cool.
Be able to do it first class too, and give a better quality than the norm. So that's what we're really looking forward to.
Yep. And even open up this new way for other builders. Other builders can come in and get access to some of this equipment and get access to some of the strategy and techniques that you're doing, and even help them compress their costs and give back to the end buyers and try to bring down the pricing on some of these units that are out here. Because that's the one thing, people just want to see more affordable housing. And if we can kind of create some sort of movement towards that, that'd be great too, right? For everybody. It's all about helping the community all the way around. So great, guys. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, you guys are stellar. You guys are I truly appreciate every conversation and time I spent with all of you. And we're off to the next. So thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And for all of you that are watching, you guys can reach out to us. We're going to be sending you an email. My staff will reach out to you, answer any questions you may have. I'm always available and make myself accessible to anybody who has deeper rooted questions. And then I also always welcome people to come out and do site visits and kind of take a look at the man cave that we built here. We got a podium one race simulator. We got a golf simulator that I think Eric comes in here and doesn't even tell us he's here, and he just golfs all the time, and kind of gets a couple posts in and gets out of here. So, but thank you guys all. Really, really appreciate it. You guys have a wonderful day and Merry Christmas, and hope you guys wonderful holidays. We'll talk soon.
Bye.